Welcome back. It is always a good day when I wake up, I give thanks, and I know that today is a day that I am privileged to step out in my little studio in San Diego, California, and introduce you to another super cool, intriguing, not only person, but friend of mine. Everyone that seems to come on the show, I end up in these really great relationships with. And the gentleman I'm going to introduce you to today, I've actually known for quite some time. I was kind of a groupie of his, not kind of, I was back in the day. Before I introduce Dave, though, let me just do a little bit of quick housekeeping. Holy cow, we've got the United States, obviously, huge market, Canada, Singapore. Like I said last week, I don't know what's going on in Singapore, but bring it on. That city is so futuristic and so freaking ahead of its time. I love that I'm getting so many downloads from Singapore. So I'm going to have to come back and visit again. Australia, holy moly. Love you guys. Ireland is coming in strong. New Zealand is starting to pick up the vibe from Australia and they're downloading. France, Indonesia, which is relatively new, and the UK. So those are my kind of top countries, and there's plenty of others. So thank you. The only way a podcast can grow and does grow is by listens, shares, downloads, tap on the shoulder to a good friend like, hey, you got to check this girl out. She does death as dinner conversation. But in discussing death, we actually embrace life because, come on, let's face it, we're born and then we die. So it's that in-between shit it's that in-between stuff that's so sweet. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, Dave Lebental is my guest today. I knew him back in the day when he worked in a band of guys that were called Five Cool What? And my dear friend Budgie from Santa Barbara and I used to literally go to every gig. We followed these guys around. And after their gigs at night, we would go to this cool little place in Santa Barbara called Frimples, and we would sit and have coffee and giggle and laugh. And just, they were so wonderful to us, and two silly gals that just loved live music. We were big, big, big fans. And then they went off to become the Tearaways. Dave is a recording artist. He is a songwriter. He is speaking and living and singing his truth all the time. He's with the Driftwood Souls, the name of his band, and I'll post all the links down below in the show page. But a warm next room welcome to my dear friend Dave. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Janie.
It's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
We had scheduled to have a chat a while back and we couldn't, for some reason, there was a ghost in the machine and we couldn't get things cooking. But what ended up happening is you and I spent like an hour just bullcrapping on the phone. And it was so lovely to catch up with you. Dave, let's talk about that pivot from being this young kid in a rock and roll band to now, you're writing country and blues and sort of like that. I don't know. It's like every man's music, which I love. I love that singer-songwriter vibe and what you're putting out now with your Driftwood guys, Driftwood Souls, I should say.
Yeah, well, I think when I was younger, my taste buds were a little narrower, and as I aged, just my heart and my ears opened up to, other genres of music. And I always liked something new, something fresh happening. I still love my classic rock, and my new wave and my 70s. But I can't listen to the same thing over and over. So, getting exposure to other types of music really sort of broadened my appeal. And then as a writer, I find it fascinating to put certain type of stories or certain type of songs together with a certain type of music. One of the things I like about being independent is I'm also not pinned down where, I don't feel like I have to make my next song be in the same idiom or genre as my last song.
Isn't
So
that great? What a gift.
It is freedom. Hey, I do want to say one thing about your kind intro and your recollection of the past. No, you and Debbie Butch were not groupies. You were established uh, program and music directors of one of the local FM stations,
Yeah.
and you were tastemakers, and you guys were excellent. And yeah, you did come to our shows, but what you'll never know is how many afternoons I was listening to you on the radio, and you always played the best stuff, and you just had a great manner about you, and that hasn't changed.
Aw,
And Debbie was fantastic too, and
yeah. Yeah, it
loved
was
you
fun.
guys, still do.
Well, that's awesome because, local music is so important, and, it was really fun doing a local music show and, getting that exposure, um, to the artists that deserve it, and, because local music doesn't get a lot of love a lot of times. So
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun up there.
and
Yeah.
we could talk for hours on that topic alone.
Yes, I know, I
And
know.
I'll tell you where I would go. I would go to the whole game changed in music when the corporate consolidation of radio stations happened, and music and program directors ceased to be the one to choose what they
Right,
were going to play.
right.
And once it became, heavily,
Corporate.
uh, these 20 songs are going to be featured, that's when really things became very sort of restricted. But enough
You
about that.
Yeah, no, I think this is important. You hear all the time because I have so many friends that are in radio and media, and you hear, oh, the fat cats ruined the business. I disagree. I think what happened is the fat cats released us from having a lid on our heads and released me anyway from having to do horrible stories with the gleam in my eye about the accident on the 5. And instead, I'm doing this now. I am now allowed to speak my truth and talk about my passion as you are allowed to produce the music you love and do exactly what you came on the planet to do instead of doing what these fat cats have told us we had to do. So it's their loss and our gain because now independence is at an all-time high with artists, writers, producers. I know people that are producing plays on Broadway independently. It's great. It has opened us up to a whole new world. So I just need to get that off my chest. Let me go back
Right.
to your writing about your music writing.
Sure.
I find, and a lot of people are so snotty about country music. Once I worked at KSON here in San Diego, the lid was off. It was like, where has country music been all my life? The lyrics and the storytelling are so deeply rich that I became a fan, a huge fan. And so I love that you did that pivot too. So let's talk about some of the storytelling and what you are doing in your music.
Well, when I write songs, I write a few different styles. Sometimes I write about myself. Sometimes I write about other people. And sometimes I write vignettes that are they're character stories that are set in a location, a place, a time, something. And those are, pretty much. Oh, the fourth thing that I sort of do frequently is I'll observe other people's lives, and I'll write in. I'll typically write in first person. I'll wear their story. Just but those are the sort of when I kind of look at my work, those seem to be the four different sort of patterns that I write in. I'm either writing about myself, and when I'm writing about myself, I tend to either write about where I am today, or I write about reflectively about, wow, this is who I was, and this is what that was like back then. I was in the studio last night. I'm working on a song right now. It's called Mindy Please. and I think I'll probably be releasing it before the end of the year. So this discussion's way in front of it, but it's a song about my wife Melinda and I when we first said I do, and I put this ring on, and I would still go out with the boys at night and have drinks or whatever, and sometimes I'd come home, and you know, it's about how a couple times one time I forgot my keys and I'm knocking on the door and she's not answering.
Mm,
And it's just kind of fun to remember, who we were and as we go through the process. So yeah, I like to write about where I'm at today too, because I think it's an interesting stage of life. I'll be 62 next week. And I don't think all the best days are necessarily behind. These days have a certain charm to them as well. And yeah, so I hope that kind of explains what I like to do. My song Painted Desert Sky, that's an interesting vignette type example of a vignette song, where I was imagining what it would be like to be a long haul trucker and be left alone with your thoughts, and you're driving through the landscape of the Southwest, which is so desolate.
yeah.
And I was sort of imagining on that one that, you would really have a lot of time to think about what went right or what went wrong in your
Mm.
life.
Hmm,
And so, that's kind
I
of
love that.
the way that I like to write, and the stories I like to tell.
I love that. That's
Sure.
cool. I was just in a big, one of those huge semi trucks, and I was sitting in the front seat, and I happened to be a guy, and I was seeing myself, and I thought, what would I do? I think I would just start writing books verbally, just like hit record and just start telling my stories.
Wow.
Because think about it. Think about the hours and hours you would have to create with no disruptions, nobody in your face, just you and your imagination traveling
Yeah.
across the great states. Huh. Interesting. Oh, that's very cool, Dave. Um, Mindy, please, huh?
Mindy, please. Yeah, look for that one. It'll be a little
That's
while
great.
before it gets out,
That's
but
great. Well,
it's
she was very patient with you because and
very
you
patient.
were not a cad. There were plenty of other musicians that will remain nameless that were not as upstanding of a man as you. You were not a cad. You were lovely and you were madly in love with her from day one. Everybody knew it. A lot of the other musicians were footloose and fancy free at the time, but you were very committed to her even before you got married. So that was a good relationship, and it was meant to stick. Let's circle back to the age thing because um, I believe that it's such a privilege to. I'm 62. I turned 62 in February, so almost welcome to my club. Um, I love it. I feel like every single moment that I get on this side that I'm allowed to honor being alive is a real gift. It's like far out. I am still here and I'm still doing my creative stuff. So, um, and I think that we grow and we get so much more interesting as we gain the wisdom from living, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And as we get a little bit longer in the tooth, we recognize the value of time and of vibrancy and energy, as we've seen both people that we love and care about pass away,
Mm,
and or um, be stricken with a health condition that forces them to manage and change their lifestyle or their capabilities. So I just don't take it for granted. I'm given an opportunity right now at this age to still be creative and to, live the dream, and
mm.
the dream of being an artist, and creating and doing something that can satisfy me and hopefully satisfy other people. So
Yeah.
it's it's
Hmm.
cool, Jane. It really is. And what you're doing is it's so amazing. You know, you're really actualizing so many of your skill sets and so much of your experience. You've done so many things over the years. It's terrific to see it all sort of coalesce at with this book and this program. And I have to say also, you've picked a really unique niche. I mean, you're special at this moment. You've always been special to me,
Ah, thank you.
but you're doing something quite special in the in
The world of death.
the world of life after death.
Yeah. Oh, that's very true. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. But this
Sure.
isn't about me. We've got to get back to you. Talk to me about, and I appreciate that, but I really, I have so many things swirling through my head right now.
Sure.
As I love that phrase, long in the tooth. Where did that come from? Now I wrote it down because now I have to go Google.
Horses.
Horses, is that what it is?
Horses, yeah. When a horse
Oh,
ages, their gum
oh,
recedes and they become long in the tooth. And you can tell a horse by looking at his teeth. Experienced horse people can. But also we humans, we also get a little long in the tooth. Our gums start to.
wow. I did not know that. Thank you for that.
That's why we must floss. We must floss.
Yes, absolutely. Keep those gums healthy.
Yeah.
Um, I love learning. It's so fun to just have little random things come in throughout the day and then say, I don't know what that means, or I've
Where did
never
that
heard that
come
word.
from?
Yeah, where did
There's
that
so
come
many
from?
colloquialisms like that
I love that. Well, that's
yeah,
good. You're a writer. You're writing songs. So
yeah.
I'm
I actually have that line in my song, I'm Not Too Old.
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
The
it.
lyric
Good.
goes, I'm too long in the tooth to be hanging around while she's looking at the merchandise all over town.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that is good. That sounds like a country song.
It is.
Of course it is. Are you
Country
kidding
rock
me?
song.
Best lyrics ever. So you brought it up about, you don't take it for granted as you're getting long in the tooth. Um, and people are leaving, or we have friends that, randomly check out very quickly
Yeah.
at a moment's notice or no notice. Um, how do you deal with the loss, and how do you process your grief over having to say goodbye to loved ones?
I would say that there isn't one specific way because different people have a different sort of meaning or connection in my life. Some hit harder and closer than others. And, there's always a void. Also, sometimes I live in a little world of denial where I don't feel the void for a while because let's say it's somebody that I don't see on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, but it's somebody that I communicate with infrequently and I hear the news they're gone. And then, for whatever that interval of time that I normally, you know, don't have communication with them, it's when that interval of time sort of passes where it sort of really hits me like, wow, I'd really like to talk to so and so right now. Or, like say there's a band or a song that I highly identify with somebody from my past or something. That's when it really hits hard. It's like, God, I'd like to call him and talk to him about that Aerosmith song. We loved that song. Remember when we used to do that? And so
Mhm.
there's that. But I think that there isn't that immediacy with me where it's like, uh, you know, I remember when my father passed away, I watched uh, his health deteriorate over a few years, and I tried to be present as much as possible. for his decline, and and he slipped into dementia pretty bad.
Mm.
And I was there at his bedside when he passed away. And because I was so present with his decline and his ultimate passing, and was right there, when he drew his last breath, literally right there. And I still didn't feel the loss like immediately. It was like, it wasn't denial, but it wasn't until there was moments where I really wanted to be interacting with them. Hey, Dad, just weird things. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm unique in that, or I think men in general might process grief and death a little different than women.
Dave, we process all information different.
Yeah, maybe so. But
I mean,
I feel it.
yeah,
I feel it, and given the appropriate window of time for whichever it is,
right.
you know,
Yeah,
um, you know, I feel those losses, and I think about the people that have passed away in my life. I think about them.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
What about, and this is a big theme for me because I want to do a whole show on it, and I probably will very soon, about rock and roll influences that leave. Um,
Yeah.
to me, it's so personal. Like when Tom Petty left, I was a wreck. And when Prince checked out, lost it. There are certain ones that just hit you right between the eyes.
Yeah.
And you feel so connected with them through their music because
Yeah.
they have been, singing your song. They have been singing your story. They've been, they are the soundtrack of your life.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think about that? Like about the influence of the music that were around, and then, some of them leave, tragically very early just because of, maybe not the best health practices, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah. Well, we know them through their song.
Right.
Their song doesn't leave.
Yeah.
And because in most cases, there isn't a personal relationship where, I'm communicating with that artist or whatever.
Right.
That which I loved so much is still there.
Mm.
I cried when Jerry Garcia died. I
Mm.
literally cried. Tears were strolling down. Now, because I went to so many Dead shows, and the idea that I wouldn't see him again,
Right.
even though he didn't know me, or I didn't. There was something there that was like, I went to a lot of Tom Petty shows. In fact, Jane, I was there on the Monday night show, and a buddy of mine called me up that morning and said, "Hey, I need a wingman to go to Tom Petty. It's the last night of the tour at the Hollywood Bowl."
Wow.
And it was a Monday night, and yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. What he didn't tell me is he had a phenomenal ticket. I had never sat down in that, what they call the pool section, which is right adjacent to the stage for Tom Petty, and the ushers allowed everybody to stand. So at one point, I
Mm.
was leaned up against the stage, and it was a great show. Tom Petty and the Heartbreak is fantastic. A few days later, Tom's gone.
Yeah.
2 days
Wow,
later.
Dave. Wow.
I had seen him many times over the years, so I like you, I had quite a connection to his music and everything. But his
Wow.
music still lives, and it's still present, and uh, I do feel the loss, though, that I won't get to see him live again, because that was the shared experience that with Jerry and with Tom Petty, and so many of these artists that we could have, and when they're gone, you know, you're not going to be able to catch them live again.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know you were there. That's pretty extraordinary because he was really, I think it was just a few days after that show.
It was 2 days later,
Yeah.
on a Wednesday. The other one that my wife says I'm not allowed to go to Walter artist shows. Bringing a bad fortune, but I was down in your neck of the woods at Humphreys, and we caught Steely Dan,
Oh, wow.
and Walter Becker passed away about a month later, maybe
Wow.
3 weeks later. And that was hard because I loved
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
seeing
Were
them
they
come
were
up.
they good live? I've never seen them live because they're
Oh,
kind of a studio band, I thought.
well, they were back in the day, of course. You know, they did start out as a live band, and then they retreated into the studio. So their first
Right.
chapter was live, but they were terrific, and they were playing the catalog, and they had a really, really terrific big band
Hmm.
with a full horn section,
Wow.
excellent background singers, phenomenal electric guitar player to you know, sort of supplement what Walter Becker was doing. Great
Right.
keyboard players to supplement also what Donald Fagen was doing.
Wow.
It was your Steely Dan records coming out
Hmm.
in a beautiful performed way. Fantastic.
That's great.
And
Y
Fagen's still out there doing it.
Yeah,
You know,
Fagen's great.
yeah, he's so great. And Walter, you know, but I'm glad I got to see him a few times with Walter. I think I saw him 3 times. And they had a cool partnership where, you know, it's like there was something very sarcastic, a couple of you know, East Coast guys that, I mean, they got each other on the deepest level, and their creativity was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really deep songs about passing, about death, about dying, about grief, and the afterlife. You know, I love it. I have a whole playlist called The Next Room. And when anyone in my life dies, I immediately go for that playlist because it just helps me cry even deeper and really feel the pain because these songs are all pretty painful. So like for instance, I'm not going to put the Next Room playlist on a sunny day when I'm headed to the beach. You know, I'm going to listen to the Beach Boys or the Beatles or Steely Dan or something fun and up tempo. But when I'm steeped in sadness over loss, there's nothing better than listening to sad music and music that's thoughtful about death, like Keep Me in Your Heart, Warren Zevon. And there's just so many good songs. I'll have to share that playlist with you. You'll love
Would
it.
you?
Yeah.
I'd love to
Yeah.
have it, because you know what? A good cry is therapeutic.
Yeah. No kidding.
When I'm ready to grieve and I'm ready to do it, the good cry releases something that, by releasing it into the energy releasing from, you know, your spirit and your body out, it brings some type of healing and some type of acceptance, that until you do that, you know, it seems like you're not quite there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleanses the soul. Good cry.
Cleanses, yeah.
Yeah. Acceptance is key. Let's talk about where individuals that are listening right now and go, wow, I really want to hear this guy's music. So you have a website and it is dlmusic.us. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay,
E for Dave, L for Lebental, music.us.
perfect.
That's the main repository. And if you go onto Facebook and you type in my name, Dave, and last name is Lebental, you'll find my stuff. And I like to put little clips up there where I sort of explain a bit about the songs, or, you know, interesting anecdotes, either about the creation of the music or the backstory on the song. But I also have all my music videos on there. And then I also have a YouTube channel. And again, it's Dave Lebental Music on YouTube.
That's great. Well, good. And I'll put out, like I said before, I'll make sure that all your links are accessible so people don't have to go looking or Googling or whatever. Um, You have a live gig coming up. So, for all the listeners up in Los Angeles, which the next room has an abundance, or if you're driving up there from San Diego, or you're coming down from Ventura, Oxnard, Santa Barbara, and you want to catch Dave and his band, the Driftwood Souls, at the Whiskey. Dave, let's talk about that because the Whiskey is a famous joint in Los Angeles. I
Yeah,
can't believe that place is still rocking. I mean, it's been there forever.
and it looks great, by the
Yeah.
way. It looks great. The sound and lights are excellent in the room, and it's still one of my favorite clubs. Really is.
Yeah. When did it morph from, wasn't it Whiskey a Go-Go? And then it
Yeah,
just,
it is still the Whiskey a Go Go.
okay.
It is still the Whiskey a Go Go,
That's
and
wild.
yeah, I really like the club. It's really nice. Um,
Okay.
and
So when are you going to play there with your band? Because it's
yeah,
coming up in a couple weeks, I think, or less than a couple weeks.
yeah, Friday, July 7th.
Okay.
We're going to play a full set at 8 p.m.
Oh, perfect. Now, would there be a link for that as well that I could post? So if someone's listening and
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, I want to go hear Dave's band, and
yeah,
they're within, driving distance, that they could just click on and grab tickets.
yeah.
Okay.
It's again at the DL Music
Oh, good. It's right under your
US. It's right
umbrella.
on the website,
Good.
and
Okay. Perfect.
tickets are right there. And yeah, it's going to be a nice show. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very much looking forward to it.
I love that. Talk to me about the guys in the band, the Driftwood Souls. Tell me about them and your connection with them.
Yeah, so I'm working with drummer Brian Hawley. He's sort of a musical director, and he's played with a lot of and continues to play with a lot of different artists around the country. And so I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'm interested in performing these songs I've been releasing live." And so he's basically put together a lineup to back me up. And he has his longtime partner. Brian's a drummer, excellent drummer. And his longtime partner, Mick Linden, is on bass. Mick's fantastic. And Donia is on keyboard. She's excellent. And John Thomas is on guitar. And Dan Boise is playing horns, saxophones. Yeah.
I love
So
it.
it's a really nice sounding band, and it's a pleasure to play with them.
How exciting that you're playing live. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your studio time too. So
Yeah.
when you are, you've come up with a concept, say you're going to write a song about the next room, about death, dying, afterlife, do 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 do, and you get in the studio, and do you have your lyrics first? Do you have your melody first? Let's talk about the process because I'm always fascinated about how a musician puts all those elements together. How does that work?
Yeah, there's a few different ways I go about it, and there's really isn't one way to skin a cat. There's
Okay.
where did that
I don't know.
stick come from?
Horrible, by the way,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
think about
horrible.
it, like just a horrible.
I hope I never say that one again.
I hope so too.
But for me, I do it a few different ways. And it often depends on the instrument that I'm using to initially write the song.
Okay.
So a lot of the material that I've been releasing in the last year and a half, I originally wrote on acoustic guitar.
Oh,
And
okay.
so when I write on acoustic guitar, and because it's so portable, and the nature of how I'm writing the material, I often am creating the lyrics at the same time. I'm listening to the music and trying to draw what type of emotion or feeling that it's giving me. And then I'm creating sort of concurrently the lyric and the song and the story or narrative that that feels appropriate for that. And there's something nice about songs that are created concurrently like that. So that's one way. When I write on piano, and I've been writing a lot on piano, and the next several singles that I'll be releasing, the next single I'm releasing is called Anyone But You. That was written on guitar. But
Okay.
after that, the next several singles I'm releasing were written on piano. It's a little bit of a stylistic slide that's going to be occurring. And that'll probably be in September. They're written on piano, and I write differently on piano. What I tend to do on piano is I'll write the music, then I'll have different musical sections, and then I will listen to it on this thing. I just use it as a notepad, and then I'll listen to it, and then I'll start creating a lyric or a topic. The other thing that I do a lot is when I'm writing on piano, although unlike acoustic guitar, I won't necessarily try to fabricate an entire lyric. What I'll do frequently is I'll scat singing. I'll scat sing, and I'll just sort of free associate.
You
And
get
when I
it
go
done,
back,
Ella.
yeah, absolutely. And when I go back and I listen to the music that I've done here and I free associate, a lot of times something comes out of my mouth that's like a signpost. Like, I like how that sounds. That's an interesting line. I can take that line and I can create a song about that topic, about that line. So I noticed when I write on piano, it's a slower writing process. It has a little bit more onion layers to it, but I come out with some pretty cool stuff.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so that's a bit different.
I love that. How many instruments do you play?
So I like to, before I answer that, I want to say, I consider it different. Like, how many instruments do you play well?
Ah,
Versus how
gotcha.
many do you play? So
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna just answer the question, how many I play.
Yeah.
I don't consider that I play the majority of these well. I
Okay.
play them at some type of level that I can do some stuff on it, and I can be creative and I can put them into my tracks. But I play acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass guitar, piano, Hammond organ, banjo, mandolin, dobro, uh, saxophone, trumpet. I play tenor and alto sax, trombone, clarinet, ukulele, banjo,
Harmonica.
harmonica, percussion. But
Dang,
I
Davy.
might be forgetting some.
You're
But
a
again, I don't consider that I play really any of them at a really high level. But for me, my main thing is about being a writer,
sure.
and and I like to serve the song.
Mm.
And oh, I forgot pedal steel. I play pedal steel, which is a really cool instrument, especially for country tracks. I like to serve the song. And so, yeah, getting back to your really cool question about how do you create these songs? So, okay, now I have a song and a lyric, and now I have my home recording set up, and I will record the fundamental of either the guitar with the voice, and then I will determine, what type of arrangement would really set this song off. And usually I like to have some drums in, so I'll bring in a drummer. I play a little drums, but I want a better drummer on my tracks, so I'll
Sure.
bring in a drummer. And then I'll lay down some type of rhythm track to it, and then I'll cut a bass guitar to it typically. And now I have a rhythm track with a bass and a drums and maybe a guitar if I wrote it on a piano. And now I'll decide, it's kind of like cooking. What spices do I want here? Would I like some horns? Would I like some strings? Oh, I play violin too. I forgot to mention. I consider violin about the hardest instrument.
Ah,
It's so hard to make that thing sound good.
wow.
Really,
So beautiful too.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
good. And so yeah, so at that moment, I'll try to determine, what will serve this song,
Right.
and then I'll you do some layering on the multi-track computer software, and um, add one element at a time and listen back. Okay, that was kind of nice. What might be, is there some other spot that could use something?
Right.
Um, One song comes to mind that hasn't been released yet, but it's a song I co-wrote with another writer, and he came up with this idea about three friends dying and
Mm,
waiting to go to heaven, and it's called Three Strangers on a Train, and I helped him with the lyric, so it's pretty apropos for your show.
yeah.
And
My
there
interest
was
is piqued.
there were three characters named in the lyric. In the first lyric, it talks about this character, an elderly woman that's in a rocking chair on her front porch, and she doesn't really know where she is. And I used banjo as the sort of accompanying instrument for her. The next character that's introduced is a character named Carlos. And I used some nice Spanish sounding guitar, some Spanish sounding guitar riffs. And the third one was a African American guy, and I used I used some sort of blues slide guitar. And then in the last, there's a bridge that occurs, and in the last verse, it brings back all three. And when each character's
Mm,
name is mentioned, that instrument sort of gently reappears under it. And
mm.
then what's kind of cool about the song is the three characters are meeting at this way station to heaven because they passed away. Very strange song. Be sure to send it your way when it sees the light.
Oh, please do.
But
I love it.
I brought it up because it's like the story of the song sort of spoke to what instrument
Sure.
each character, might benefit from.
Yeah,
And so that's how that all kind of played out.
I love it. Well, I have kept you longer than I thought I was going to, but this has been really fun and super fascinating. In closing, I want to give you the final thoughts that you have. But before I get to your final thoughts, I need to know what is that you hope or think or intuitively feel will be waiting for you, hopefully a long, long time from now, when it comes time for you to transcend to the next room.
What a great question. I would say a, a, a feeling of peace, and a feeling of peace and contentment, and um, uh, just acceptance
Mm.
of peace. And I love the part in your book where your mother, when you ask her, you know, how do you feel? And I'm just going to paraphrase, but what I remember so clearly was, don't worry. It, when you're on this side, it's just fine. Everything's fine. A lot of the things that you get yourself all tangled up in, don't, you know. Uh, I loved that part of the book. I was like, ooh, And that's what I would hope for myself. And I also hope that, that the measure of all of my good intentions is, I hope that comes with me.
I like that. The measure of all my good intentions comes with me. Hang on, got to make a note so I can turn that into a little meme quote.
Yeah, I
That's good.
sometimes there's good intentions that aren't acted upon.
Yeah,
Sometimes there's good intentions that are acted upon, but not in the smoothest or most, effective or functional way.
sure.
And and sometimes there's those that are, fulfilled nicely.
Okay.
But I do think that we all have, more good intentions than often see the light of day.
In closing, is there anything that I didn't touch on that you would like to share with the Next Room family and listeners before we say goodbye?
Well,
Any final thoughts?
yeah, I loved reading your book, and I think the final thought I want to put across is that, of course, none of us really knows what's on the other side. And I do think some people have more ability to connect than other people do. But I think for people that have the ability to connect, that I don't think you're crazy. I think you have something that is real and yet unprovable. And anything unprovable, people in science say is crazy. But yet some scientists of the highest fame, they had a side of faith to them. And they clearly didn't dismiss the afterlife or a belief in a higher power as just being nonsense. That all we are is some biological mass that's some amoeba blob that's here for some sentient amount of time. So yeah, but I just don't think you're crazy. I think that
Thanks, Dave.
no, and it's not just you. I
No,
think
I know.
people that are tuned in, and that they're tuned in because it's a topic that is, well, it's kind of a lonely topic, because 9 out of 10 people would tell you you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And the 10th, well, I think I'm of the 10th. I don't think you're crazy. I think you can tap into something. And I do think that there is something on the other side. That's my thought. I almost wish we could have started with that.
It was a fun show. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the
Oh,
Next Room and share with us all the wonderful things going on. Dave Lebental is my guest. He'll be with the Driftwood Souls. He's going to be at the Whiskey in Los Angeles coming up on July 7th. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a website where you can plug in, get tickets to the whiskey show, or just, find his music, download his music. You know what I'm going to say, us little independent authors and musicians and artists, we so appreciate when you support us and our work. I mean, nothing's better, man, when you see somebody randomly purchase a song or purchase your book. It just gives you this feeling that you're not alone, that you're not sitting here, entertaining yourself in your small studio in San Diego or your beautiful, studio up in Los Angeles. So thank you. Thank you for myself, and thank you for Dave. And thanks for listening, because as you well know, the only way this show can move on and grow and gain listeners is by those listeners
Well,
and
Jane,
downloads.
one thing I would like to say to your audience,
Sure.
if you do stop by my my website or my YouTube channel or my Facebook, can you please pop me a quick message either in the guest book or something and let me know that you heard about me from the next room.
Oh,
I
good.
I would love that, and I'll certainly respond to you. I try to respond to everybody. I do respond to everybody, so
Good. I love that.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you for, I'm glad you added that, because that's very cool. I had Terry James on a couple weeks ago, and one of the listeners, my hardcore listener, Callista down in Australia, was like, how do I get a hold of Terry? I need to talk to him. So now Terry's got this new fan, she was like, oh my God, he's just so cool and so real. And that is the sole purpose of what I do, is connecting really cool people to the audience I have, and then taking it from there. Because that's how we grow. We learn and we grow together.
And also, I'd like to be able to post about this show and put a link to your podcast, both on my website and on my social media. So let
Please
me know
do.
when that is.
Oh,
And
yeah. Oh, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you immediately, because it's going to air before your whiskey show. So don't worry, Davey. I'll send you all the links. And yeah, I appreciate it anytime, because I'll interview people and then they don't do anything with it. They expect me to promote it. And it's like, you've got a big audience. You've got to let people know that you were just on the show. So I do appreciate that. So, okay. Thanks so much for tuning in. You're listening to The Next Room with Jane Asher and my guest, Dave Lebental. All the links are down below on the show page. Please support him. Go find him on YouTube and follow him, and go to his Facebook page and give him a love like there. And you can check out all of his music. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you again next week.
thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Davey. I appreciate you coming on The Next Room, where death is dinner conversation.
Thanks.